You are about to embark on an epic adventure, a quest for the Crown of Kings. Your journey will take you from Analand, your home, across the unruly territories of Kakhabad to the Mampang fortress wherein lies the treasured crown. Hi, I'm Jeremiah, and we're going to go on an adventure together. Each of these episodes, I'm going to read some of a book. And that book is one of the books that some people call them game books. They're decision books, not like Choose Your Own Adventure, but something more like a role-playing game mixed with a book. It's a game book, so you'll see. Anyway, you're going to go on an adventure with me. I love these books. Make the decisions, and we'll see, first, where it leads. Second, if our character makes it all the way through and doesn't die. So, thanks. Okay, we're going to get started. We're going to get to the story part. Okay. Leaving the once peaceful kingdom of Analand behind, you set courageously off into the wild, unruly, and dangerous lands of Kakhabad. Armed with only your trusty sword and your knowledge of the magic arts, your mission is to journey to the dark and distant Mampang forest where the legendary Crown of Kings has been taken, stolen by the evil Archmage. Without the Crown of Kings, there is no hope for your homeland, for as chaos and anarchy descend, the Archmage will gather his bloodthirsty army and overrun all the neighboring kingdoms. Your all-or-nothing attempt to avert this disaster will take you from the Shamutanti hills, I'll just make it up next time, through the dangerous streets of Kar, Khare, Kare. You know what? I don't know how to pronounce any of this, because they're made-up names. If somebody, out there has some, has a connection to Steve Jackson, not Steve Jackson from Steve Jackson Games. There's 2 Steve Jacksons in the gaming industry, or more, I don't know. Anyway, through the dangerous streets of that city, the city port of traps, across the wilderness of the Bucklands, and finally to the evil Mampang forest itself, a journey covered by the 4 books in this series. Many dangers lie ahead, and your success is by no means certain. Powerful adversaries are ranged against you, and often your only choice is to kill or be killed. We already created a character. We're not going to deal with how to play in this game. I'm just going to do it, and you'll learn it if you don't know. The legend of the Crown of Kings. Centuries ago, in a time we now call the Dark Ages, whole regions of the world were undiscovered. There were pockets of civilization, each with their own races and cultures. One such region was Kakhabad, the dark land at the end of the earth. Although several warlords have tried, Kakhabad has never been ruled. All manner of evil creatures, forced from the more civilized lands beyond the Zanzunu peaks, had gradually crawled into Kakhabad, which became known as the Vermin Pit at Earth End. Civilization and order had spread throughout the rest of the known world ever since the discovery of the Crown of Kings by the reformer, by Shalana, the reformer of Femfree. With its help, Shalana became emperor of the largest empire in the Eastern world. This magical crown had mysterious powers, bestowing supernatural qualities of leadership and justice on its owner. But Shalana's own ambitions were not of conquest. He wished instead to establish peaceful nation-states. Thus, in his wisdom, he passed the fabled crown from ruler to ruler in the neighboring kingdoms. And with the help of its magical power, one by one, these lands became peaceful and prosperous. The path was set. Each ruler would own the Crown of Kings for a 4-year period in which to establish order within the kingdom and fall in with the growing Femfree alliance. So far the kingdoms of Ruddlestone, Lendeland, Galantria, and Bryce had taken their turns under the rule of the crown, and the benefits were immediate. War and strife were virtually unknown. The king of Analand duly received the Crown of Kings amid great ceremony, and, from that day forwards, the development of Anorland was ensured. No one quite knew how the Crown of Kings could have such an enormous uplifting effect on the whole nation. Some said it was divinely inspired, some that its power was merely in the mind. But one thing was certain. Its effects were unquestionable. All was well in Anorland until the night of the Black Moon. The king was the first to discover that the crown was missing, carried off on that starless night by birdmen from Zaman. The crown was on its way to Mampang in the outlaw territories of Kakhabad. News came from Backlands that the crown was being carried to the Archmage of Mampang, whose ambitions were to make Kakhabad his kingdom. Although Kakhabad was a dangerous land, it was in itself little threat to the surrounding kingdoms. The lack of rule meant it had no army, and its own internal struggles kept it permanently occupied. But with the Crown of Kings to establish rule, Kakhabad could potentially be a deadly enemy to all members of the alliance. Such was the shame that fell on Anorland for the loss of the crown, that all the benefits from 2 years under its rule soon disappeared. Law, order, and morale were breaking down. The king was losing the confidence of the subjects. Neighboring territories were looking suspiciously across their borders. There was even whisperings of an invasion. One hope remained. Someone, for a military force would never survive the journey, must travel to Mampang and rescue the Crown of Kings. Only on its safe return would the dreadful curse be lifted from Anorland. You have volunteered yourself for this quest, and your mission is clear. You must cross Kakhabad to the Mampang fortress and find the crown. And we have a picture of the map. You awake at sunrise. You awake at sunrise. After dressing, you breakfast on bread and goat's milk and collect your belongings. Outside, the outpost settlement is stirring. The women folk emerge to wash and prepare their meals as the day's guard takes over. Eyes follow you as you leave your hut and walk toward the Shamutanti wall. The frontiers people are well aware of your mission, and a small crowd of well-wishers follows you some distance behind. Before you stands the Kantapani Gate, guarded constantly by sight master warriors, chosen for their powers of telescopic vision. The gate is the final doorway between Anorland and Kakhabad. Once more you check your pack. Satisfied that your preparations are complete, you nod to the sight master sergeant. For the last time he glances at the lookout atop the gate, who signals the all clear. The sergeant orders the bolt to be withdrawn. A doorway opens up in front of you, and you get your first view of the Shamutanti Hills. Shamutanti. 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 And you get your first view of the Shamutanti Hills, the first stage of your voyage. The sight master sergeant strides over and grasps your hand. I will not wish you a safe journey, for the way ahead will not be safe. Kakhabad is treacherous land, inhabited by devils, but this you already know. Take the path ahead to Kantapani, a small settlement of traders, although most are rogues or thieves, which you will reach within the hour. From Kantapani onwards, there are 3 routes, through Biratani to Kar, a city port on the Jabaji River. From Kar, you must cross the Backlands, which are unknown. It is said that day and night in the Backlands are controlled not by the sun, but by supernatural forces. And bear in mind also that, from Kar onwards, your progress will be watched. It's in italics at the end. His warnings do little to inspire confidence in you, unsurprisingly. He continues, but I have observed your training, and you are indeed a worthy champion. I wish you luck and success with your quest. My thoughts and the good wishes of all peoples of Anorland will be with you. With Libra on your side, may you live to lift the curse and depression which rack our kingdom. You shake his hands, thank him for his good wishes, and step up to the gate. Resolutely, you pass through the door. Resolutely, you pass through the doorway. The faces of the folk watching your departure reveal the hopes that rest with you and with the success of your quest. With a wave, you turn and face the hills. The early morning air is crisp, and the rising sun paints the hills in colors of natural beauty which conceal the devilry ahead. Setting off determinedly, you follow your path. Your quest has begun. Turn to 178. So in these kind of books, you don't read straight through. You got to kind of skip around, and then decisions come up, and there's a decision coming up soon in which you will need to decide, you internet, you listener. I'll show you how to do that later. The path winds through fields of scrubland. The countryside is deserted, and an eerie silence is broken only by the cawing of an occasional crow. The birds appear to pause in the air to examine you as they pass, and you feel uneasy in their presence. You pass over a small hillock, from the top of which you can see the path continuing downwards into a small settlement of huts at the base of the Shamutanti hills. You follow the path, and, as you approach the village, noises and movements indicate that it is populated. As the path runs straight through the village, you have little choice but to follow it. The round huts are made of a hard-baked, bright clay with thatched roofs. Roofs? Roofs? It says roofs. Thatched roofs. Yeah. Is roofs a word? As you pass, eyes appear at dark doorways watching your movements. Suddenly, a villager appears from one of the dwellings and stands before you. He is 5 feet tall, with thick-set arms and thighs half clothed in tattered breeches. His eyes are wild, and his long red hair and beard stand out on his face in a wiry tangle. "Halt, stranger!" he commands. "What business have you in Kantapani?" What is your response? Here you're going to make a choice. Tell him you are a trader. Ask for directions onward. Tell him you are hungry and you need provisions. So what would we like to do? That's where this part gets a little more interesting. I mean, the story itself is interesting, but I thought it would be fun to have you decide. So I'm going to make a survey, and you're going to click on the one that you want, and whichever one gets the most votes is the one we're going to do. So thank you for joining in the very first reading. Our character has had much development. Not really. But now we know things. And I'm excited for you to join me again in just a couple of days. Maybe even less. If you're viewing it live, probably a couple days. If you're behind in the story, then you're going to get to go to part 2 right away. So, thanks much. I'm Jeremiah Lee. We're reading Steve Jackson's Sorcery. The first book is called The Shamutanti Hills.